So, as it turns out, anyone can be Secretary of Defense, and you don't need to have had any skills or real resume in order to have this very important job to lead one of the most critical departments in this country. According to Republicans, all you need to do is be white and a man and, parrot bullshit, and you got the job. That is the refrain, the thread of this incoming administration, this incoming regime, because that is what it is, folks. And you know what? We're all going to learn to take a page from Michelle Obama's book in 2025 moving forward. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. Buckle up because there's a lot to go through. Get ready. They say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I will tell you that I will never forget this image of Michelle Obama at Donald Trump's first inauguration in 2017. I'll never forget it because if you are a Black woman, you know exactly what this face is saying. But you also know that as Black people, we take a lot of pride in how we look, how we show up, right? And in our presentation all together. And part of that, let's be honest, is steeped in the white gaze, right? The white supremacy that we all are smothered inside of, where if we are in a hoodie or in jeans or, not in our best, then we know what will be said about us as Black people. So when Michelle Obama showed up to the 2017 inauguration of Donald Trump with her hair pulled back in like a I'm about to wash my face type of bun and an outfit that she probably pulled out from the back of her closet, she was sending a message not only to Donald Trump, but to America. He's not worth our fucking time. That's what that message was. That's what that face was. He is not worth the effort that I would put in for anything or anyone else. So fast forward, and news broke earlier today that Michelle Obama will skip Trump inauguration, but ex-presidents Clinton and Bush will be there along with their spouses. Now, there are lots of thoughts and opinions on this, so I'm going to offer mine, which I did in a short video that I put out a couple of minutes ago, actually, to promote the show. I said, Michelle Obama is right. She announced that she's not going to this inauguration. She did not go to Jimmy Carter's funeral, even though she loved Jimmy Carter. She said, I am on my extended holiday and I'm not going. And there are lots of things that can be said. But here's the thing. Michelle Obama is done putting up a farce. She is finished with the political pageantry. She is over the bullshit pleasantries. She does not have time for it. It is not of interest to her. And that is not how she is going to move going forward. And so I say today that we all need to take a page out of Michelle Obama's book in 2025 and moving forward through this entire Trump regime. You see, these political leaders, right? Barack Obama, Clinton, Bush, Biden, that are showing up. They want to pretend, right, that all is okay. They want to signal to the world and to the American people, see, we can have a peaceful transition of power. But you see, we were never concerned about a peaceful transition of power before Donald Trump, before the man whose inauguration you're attending sent a violent, armed mob to the very steps that you're going to be sitting on. So by you even showing up 6 days from now to sit there and smile and share pleasantries with a man that you know is a criminal, is a sexual assaulter, is a grifter, is a liar, is an insurrectionist, you think that the rest of us are somehow going to fall for the rope-a-dope. Except Michelle Obama's absence is sending a message to all of us that all is not okay. And actually, it is okay not to be okay. Because sometimes, dear friends, reality is tough. That's why they say that ignorance is bliss. Because the not knowing and the twiddling of our thumbs and pretending that things are okay, you think that will serve you in the long run, but it doesn't. Because it doesn't give you the resolve to be able to deal with hard things. Michelle Obama is not pretending that Donald Trump isn't going to become president. She's just not going to participate in the ceremony. You can acknowledge the reality that is headed our way, that we have, once again, as a nation, elected a liar, a grifter, a sexual assaulter, an abuser to be president of the United States, a man that only ran for the office again so that he could get a get out of jail free card. So Michelle Obama is not going to sit there and pretend that this is something that we should all just stomach. For the sake of what? The sake of institution? The sake of what? Tradition? Because where has that led us so far? Nowhere. And as today moves on, and before we even delve into what's been happening on Capitol Hill with Pete Hegseth's confirmation, let us remember that Jack Smith's report on January 6th on election interference is now partially public. Special counsel report says Trump would have been convicted in election case. The report, which said the special counsel's office stood fully behind the merits of the prosecution, amounted to an extraordinary rebuke of the president-elect. But I ask you today, dear friends, what difference does this actually make? Sure, I guess to release the report would be to have a public record of what it is that we have known for the last several years. The insurrection happened 4 years ago. And what we know now by this report is that had Merrick Garland appointed a special counsel immediately after being sworn in, then Jack Smith would have had more than enough time to try this case before Donald Trump even announced that he was going to be running. Reads here, the department's view that the Constitution prohibits continued indictment and prosecution of a president is categorically and does not run on the gravity of the crimes charged, the strength of the government's proof, or the merits of the prosecution, which the office stands fully behind. This is a view that the Department of Justice has, that you shouldn't move through an indictment or prosecution of a president. But what Jack Smith clearly says here is that, oh, this is not a regular prosecution. That policy, this idea that they put forward, doesn't take into consideration the gravity of the crimes that are being charged here. He continued, indeed, but for Mr. Trump's election, an imminent return to the presidency, the office assessed that the admissible evidence was sufficient to obtain and sustain a conviction at trial. So Donald Trump did exactly what it is that he set out to do. He announced that he was going to be running for the presidency so that any investigation into any levels of his wrongdoing, he could wrap up and say was what? Say it with me now, a witch hunt. And Democrats and the public fell for the bullshit once again. Because now, instead of Donald Trump standing trial, he is going to be standing on the steps of the Capitol building, placing his hand on a Bible and swearing to protect and defend the very Constitution that he defiled by inciting an insurrection. Also by hiding documents. Also that he could, what? Sell them to the highest bidder. But now Donald Trump doesn't have to worry about his bottom line or selling off documents because now he's given them once again access for free. And he can do whatever he wants to do with them with what? Absolute and complete immunity. Thank you to the Supreme Court. You know, today is a really hard day, and I want us to acknowledge that. It's a really hard day. It's one of those days that challenge your ability to actually remain hopeful. I want us to understand that hopefulness is not about denying hardship. It's not about denying the presence of bad times. It's about understanding that we have found our way through before and we will find a way through again. It does not mean that the way through is going to be easy or it's going to be clear or it's going to be rosy or it's going to be comfortable. Hope is about understanding that there is going to be a way and we will find it together. Because what happens, folks, with our cynicism is that it calcifies. It turns toxic our ability to aspire to something better than where we are at the current moment. And if we allow ourselves to marinate in that toxicity, if we allow ourselves to become hardened, then we won't have the energy to bother to look for a pathway forward. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it is not to pretend that bad things aren't going to happen or that all will be okay. It is to acknowledge the reality that things are not okay and hard times are indeed coming, but that we are collectively committing to powering through, to figuring out a pathway through inch by inch, moment by moment, step by step. So this is why for me today, the announcement that Michelle Obama isn't attending the inauguration is the realest shit that I have seen since we lost the election. Because everybody else is acting like it's business as usual. Like, I am like, where the fuck actually are the establishment Democrats? their strategy? Where is their coordination? We're going to get to the confirmation hearing in a moment, but when I ask these questions, folks, it isn't just to admonish and be critical of Democrats, but I am genuinely concerned that nothing has been learned. And when you don't learn anything, you continue to do the same shit over and over again. I want Democrats to use the same coordinated strategy that they did in presenting the case of January 6th to the American people. I want them to do that with each and every confirmation hearing. I want them to do that with each and every illegitimate bill that the House of Representatives is going to pass under Mike Johnson, like they did today, which is to ban trans women from participating in sports, because that's the most pressing thing that is apparently miring the country right now, is the 1% of the population, which is exactly what trans people are in this country. That's the most pressing thing. So instead of Democrats even taking this bill seriously, where is the strategy around showing the American people exactly what it is that Republicans are trying to do? So this is why I get angry at the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumers of the world that would push to the back of the line and down the ladder Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Jasmine Crockett, who both threw their hats in the ring to be ranking member on really important committees in lieu of other people that are institutionalists that have no idea how to communicate and move in this moment. And that's what the hearing showed me today. So here we are, folks. Pete Hegseth, I would largely believe that this man has got to be the most unqualified person to ever be appointed Secretary of Defense. Pete Hegseth served in the military. Okay, tens of thousands of people serve in the military. Does that mean that they are qualified to lead the military? Does that mean that they are qualified to be, because you've been in the military? I don't think so. I've been in a hospital. Does that mean that I'm qualified to do surgery? I've ridden a train. Does that mean that I'm qualified to be the conductor? Because that's the logic that is being used right now to spin this motherfucker into somebody that is qualified. So you can be a Harvard graduate with 20 years of experience on the bench, but be called a DEI hire when you are appointed to the Supreme Court, as Ketanji Brown Jackson was. But you can be a fucking weekend Fox host who just served in the military, and somehow that makes you qualified to be Secretary of Defense. Now, if I am Democrats and I'm sitting on the Armed Services Committee, which is doing this hearing right now, we are going one by one to just show the American people just exactly what, quote unquote, DEI, not qualified, actually looks like. I'm going to talk about the ways in which these very committee members and the members of this party have sat around and tore apart highly qualified individuals for no other reason than they were Black or people of color or women. It didn't matter what their resume looked like. And so what they are telling you in this hearing here today is that this man, who is nothing more than another white face on Fox who was in the armed services up until 2021 that somehow this man who has no high ranking in military service whatsoever, who has been accused of sexual assault, who has been accused by his own colleagues of being a drunk, who was let go of multiple nonprofits, from leading multiple nonprofits. Why? Because he ran their budgets into the fucking ground. But somehow, dear friends, this man today is qualified. Make it make sense. Seriously, make it make sense for me, because it absolutely does not.
Occurred in Monterey, California in October 2017. At that time, you were still married to your second wife, correct?
I believe so.
And you had just fathered a child by a woman who would later become your third wife, correct?
Senator, I was falsely charged, fully investigated, and completely cleared.
So you think you were completely cleared because you committed no crime? That's your definition of cleared? You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you are completely cleared?
Senator,
how is that a complete clear?
How is that completely clear? Now, there are people that were on X who were saying that this line of questioning was completely out of order. And I say, tell me how. Because what Senator Tim Kaine is trying to do there is talk about this man's character, something that the military cares a great deal about. Your character and your loyalty, not to the generals, not even to the commander-in-chief, but to the Constitution and to your fellow combatants. So you're looking at a man who has multiple children by multiple women whom he has cheated on and fathered out of wedlock. But somehow he is not going to cheat on the American people. He ran one of his other companies' budgets into the ground. They don't know where that money went. He has been wasted, blackout drunk at holiday parties, at events for work. Now, we all know, right? People go to receptions and events and things like that at work. Do you get wasted when you're there? I doubt that you do if you expect to have a job the next morning. But if you're Pete Hegseth, apparently you can do whatever the hell you want. So here's a little bit more about Pete Hegseth from Pete Hegseth. He went on the Sean Ryan show, which I doubt is anything other than just another white male toxic masculinity show. And he was talking about the military. And these are his thoughts on the military that he is getting ready to lead. Quote, "The dumbest phrase on planet Earth in the military is our diversity is our strength," Hegseth said in a recent appearance on the Sean Ryan Show podcast. So he believes that diversity is a joke. Not only does he believe that it's a joke, he also believes that it's the dumbest phrase. He went on to laud the integration of the military in 1948, saying it allowed Blacks and Hispanics to serve along white guys. Echoing a familiar theme in right-wing circles, He said an obsession with diversity, equity, and inclusion, including transgender rights, has eroded military values. He also decried the role of women in combat. These women that stand alongside their male colleagues to risk their lives to protect democracy here and abroad. Women like Senator Duckworth, who had both of her legs blown off in a military explosion. Quote, I'm straight up saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated. Is that right? This is the man that they are getting ready to put in charge of our military. Now, folks, morale in the military is a real thing. And what Hegseth is already setting up is women shouldn't be here, Black people shouldn't be here, Hispanic people shouldn't be there, trans people shouldn't be there. What the fuck do you think would happen to our ability to fight abroad if all that was allowed in the military was white men? Maybe he wants to open up the draft. You know, the one that Donald Trump dodged. Maybe he wants to reopen up the draft because that's the only way that you're going to get an influx of white men into the military. So everyone else evidently has no qualifications. That's what these people believe. He thinks that he's qualified for this job. And my question to him, if I had been sitting on that committee, would be, what makes you qualified for this job? I want to read to you the resumes of the last 5 secretaries of defense. Tell me where you think you fit in. And then I'd sit there and wait. I would talk to him about the actual demographic makeup of the military and ask him how strong he thinks that we would be if the military were all white men and how he purports to do that. So, another question that was not asked today. Are you a white nationalist? What does white nationalism mean to you? How do you define white nationalism? Because you see, the assumption is that Black people and people of color, people of alternate faiths outside of Christianity are always asked these disgusting, stereotypical questions. If they happen to be a person of Muslim faith, they're asking if you have allegiance to Hamas. So I want to ask Pete Hegseth, do you have allegiance to white supremacist institutions? Are you a known supporter of white supremacist institutions? What do your tattoos on your body mean? Because one of your former colleagues reported you when you were still in active military service. Why were you reported? I would hold up the symbols that are on his very body and show them in places that promote fascism, authoritarianism, and white supremacy. And I would say, so what does this mean to you that it's on your chest and on your back? If you are not a white supremacist, how do you define your ideology about not wanting to have mixed races and ethnicities inside of our military? I'll wait. Folks, where were those questions? You had folks like Kirsten Gillibrand, who I have always applauded her work with trying to protect women inside of the military. But Kirsten didn't give a biting presentation. She went on and gave a soliloquy. I don't need your motherfucking monologue. Who is that helping? So you get to run the clip home to your constituents? That's not what we need right now, folks. But that's what we largely received. So when I say that I want strategy and questions being asked in the way that the January 6th committee, they were in lockstep. And Democrats are still showing me that they are out of step, out of touch, and disconnected from one another and from us. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. At this grave point, friends, it doesn't make sense. So here is what Democrats did. So they said that Democrats grilled Hegseth about his past comments on women in the military, on allegations of sexual assault, and claims of excessive drinking and other workplace misconduct. Hegseth denied the assault allegation, in which he was not charged, and called the other misconduct claims anonymous smears. And you heard Senator Tim Kaine where he said, you know what? They're not anonymous. Like people sign their names to them. But listening to Republicans, particularly Joni Ernst, who was going to be one of the holdouts, but apparently, she has an election coming up that she needs to worry about. So she's more in the business of CYA covering her own ass than she is actually protecting the people that serve in our military and making sure that they have the most qualified Secretary of Defense leading them. No. They have pretty much said that he's good to go and have indicated their support. You can't make this shit up, folks. It is wildly disgusting, disheartening. But at this point, it's like, what can we expect? And that's why I say, so if for whatever reason, and maybe it's going to be a gift from God, that maybe we actually have midterm elections and they are not a farce. That Donald Trump and the Trump regime actually allow midterm elections to go through. Maybe Democrats can gain some seats, but let me tell you something. There are some Democrats that need to fucking go. Just because you have a D by your name does not actually mean that you are down for the progressive cause. And I am so tired of Republican moderates masquerading as Democrats. I'm over it. Oh, they have a tough seat. Oh, they're in a red district. Okay. If you are not going to say that you are going to vote with the Democratic caucus 100% of the time, I don't want you. Then run as a fucking independent or run as a moderate Republican. But do not call yourself a Democrat and then vote against our best interests and think that you're going to hold on to a job. And that's why I'm saying these people with these octogenarians and these septuagenarians that have been in office for 1,000,000 years, maybe they have served you well in the 20th century, but that is not where the fuck we are anymore. And until these people wake up and recognize that it is not about them and their jobs and their power, it is about the rest of us, they don't deserve to have those jobs anymore. They don't deserve to be in power. I said this after the election and I'll say it again. I am ready for a viable third party situation. I have always believed in a multi-party system because Democrats show themselves over and over again to be absolutely feckless. And so what action do we need to take? We need to take notes. I had this friend who was single, right? And she was like, I need to take dating seriously. If I don't want to end up alone, right, which she did not, and I don't begrudge her. There are people that are, I don't want to end up alone. She said, I need to take dating seriously, which means that I need to put as much energy into dating, right, as I do my job that pays my bills in order to find the right person. And you know what? Within a year of that kind of attitude, she found her man. Good for you, girl. Let's put in that same energy to finding representatives that actually give a damn about us. And it doesn't end after election day, because I want to see how you're actually doing on the job. She wanted to get married. Okay, how is he as a husband? How are we checking in and holding each other accountable for the vows that we took? You take a vow to represent the people of these United States as a congressman or a senator, and I'm going to check in and say, how are you doing on the job? I'm not going to assume that what you told me on the campaign trail is what you're going to be doing in your office and what you're going to be doing on the House floor. So what is our job, folks? It is to provide them midterm reviews. How the fuck you doing? How have you been voting? How are you showing up for your constituents? We walk into these election booths, we press these buttons, and then we go on about our day, hoping that everything is going to turn out okay. We have Donald Trump again because guess what? The old ways don't work. We have to be as in tune and connected with our political well-being as we are with our jobs on a regular basis. Everything is interconnected. So for these people that want to turn around your friends or your family and say, oh, I'm not that into politics, be like, are you into roads and driving on them without potholes? Are you into bridges not collapsing? Are you into your kids having teachers get paid that are in your classrooms? Are you into workers' protections and workers' rights? Are you into clean air and drinking water? Then you were into fucking politics. So miss me with it. We cannot expect these people that we send to Capitol Hill to care about us more than we care about ourselves. And so what I am saying to you all today is we have got to take responsibility away from them and take it back into our own hands. We have got to be the ones that are evaluating on a regular basis whether or not these people are deserving of our vote. And if they are not, then we have to be. You see, folks, this is work. Protecting your freedoms and your rights. This is not like breathing that you don't have to think about on a regular basis. Or just like the heart is just going to beat until it doesn't. The way that we have sold politics and political participation to the American people is why we have Donald Trump coming in for a second term. Because they believe that things will just continue working the way that they do because the people that go after these jobs have your best interests at heart. And what we are seeing, folks, what you are waking up to is the reality that they don't. We are about to welcome back into the White House the most criminal, unqualified people that we have ever seen, having our most precious secrets, all of our data and information. They're over here worried about TikTok. I'm worried about who the fuck is going to be running the FEC. And worried about who's going to be running the FBI, Kash Patel. Who's going to be running the national security? Tulsi Gabbard? Sometimes, folks, it takes losing freedoms. It takes things collapsing literally around us before we start to realize our fault in the situation. It isn't just Republicans' fault. Republicans are like pigs in shit. You don't fault pigs for rolling around in shit. That's what they do. I don't fault Republicans for being assholes. That's what they are. They don't care about the public. They care about profit. So why am I trying to convince these people to be better than they are? I'm trying to convince the people that are asleep to stop hitting the fucking snooze button and wake the fuck up. I tell you, let me take a breath and run through where we are right now with these fires that are still not under control. Thousands, tens of thousands of people have been displaced. Whole towns have been burnt to the ground. People have lost literally everything. So don't get distracted by the media and telling you what celebrity's mansion went up in flames. And so you're like, well, I don't really care. They have enough money to go and buy a new one. No, they're the people of Altandena, the oldest Black middle class neighborhood that is burnt to the ground. And we know who is coming in there, right? The real estate vultures that were circling around Katrina after Katrina in New Orleans and what they did to New Orleans. They're about to do the same thing to these areas. You want to talk about looting? Don't talk to me about people trying to get their basic needs met. Why don't you talk to me about the motherfuckers that are coming in to jack up rents? Why don't you talk to me about the insurance companies that don't want to insure people? You want to know that climate change is real? Go sit down with the folks at State Farm who don't want to insure you. So we have this all going on. Biden has announced $770 emergency checks for residents impacted by the California wildfires. The FEMA chief says 33,000 people impacted by the fires have filed for federal assistance as of Monday evening, right? Biden made the announcement last week, Thursday evening, during a briefing from the Oval Office on the situation in Southern California. According to the president, nearly 6,000 people had been approved to receive the payments thus far. I just want you to understand that 33,000 people have filed, right, for assistance. Only 6,000 have been approved and have gone through so far. Payments have gone out, leading to a total of $5.1 million. And as Biden says on his way out, we're not waiting until those fires are over to start helping victims. We're getting them help right now. Well, that is, folks, until 6 days from now, when Donald Trump, who has offered nothing but fake AI generated memes and nasty name calling, is going to become president of the United States. That is until Republicans who have said that they want to put conditions on helping the state of California get into power again. 6 days. And the people of California are pretty much going to be on their own. So any way that you can find it within your heart to be able to offer up, I think what people are saying that is needed now are brand new toiletries, tampons, toothpaste, face wash, underwear, new underwear, socks, bras. Like, these are the things that people need immediately. And what we see are neighbors helping neighbors and community members helping community members, because at the end of the day, what Donald Trump and the Trump regime can remind us is we are all we got. We are no longer 6 days from now going to be assuming that the people that are inside of the federal government are actually working for our best interests. They will not be. Donald Trump is getting ready to go in and fire tens of thousands of civil servants who have dedicated their lives to making this country better, who have the institutional knowledge that is needed to make agencies better. He's getting ready to fire them. And then all California is going to receive moving forward are posts on Truth Social and slights on Fox. Democrats will no doubt shake their fingers. But if you're looking for the opportunity inside of this obstacle, it is that we need to rely on each other, not turn on each other. We need to take note of what the people in California are doing to help one another, what Americans have been doing around the country to pour in help and aid to the people of California. Do not take your direction from the folks at the top, because the folks at the top don't give a fuck about you. 6 days from now, that is going to be 1000% the truth. We have to be what we each need. Because when we build real life, in real life communities that are strong, that are resilient, there's no telling what we're able to achieve. But if we continue to fall for their rope-a-dope, we are going to be asked all the way out. So just a reminder, take your reference points from Michelle Obama. You do not have to participate in the fuckery in order to build community. And with that, my dear, dear friends, it is time for Town Hall Tuesday. And for those of you that are new, Town Hall Tuesday is when I spend the last 15 minutes of the show answering questions, whatever questions that you may have that I may have the answers to. So I ask that you write in all caps in the chat, question, and then your question. I will do my best to run through as many as possible in the next 15 minutes. And let's get into it. It's Town Hall Tuesday on The Danielle Moodie Show. All right, it is Town Hall Tuesday, and I ask that you do exactly what Ian did. Ian, I hope that I'm saying your name right. Question: what impetus is there for anyone to follow any laws anymore? Such a great question, Ian. And my response is, unless you were sitting on billions and happen to be white and happen to be a male and happen to have friends in high positions of power, the laws actually do apply to you. So you will find out very quickly, right, that the only person that's able to get away with things is Donald Trump and anybody that is in Donald Trump's orbit. But if you are not Donald Trump or in Donald Trump's orbit, chances are you're going to be screwed. So important to follow the laws. Question: put TV on a channel not airing the inauguration on Monday so the POTUS ratings will be low. I agree. I will not be watching. I have no desire whatsoever. It is the Martin Luther King holiday, and I am going to either be resting, meditating, being in community with friends and loved ones, but I ain't watching at all. No desire whatsoever. So to each their own. Some people want to see it all play out. Question: would you ever, you all ask this question all the time. So let me just state for the record. Sherry, I appreciate your question. Would you ever consider running for office, Congress? No. And the reason is, folks, no one is going to vote for me. Okay. I am a very outspoken Black queer woman, child of immigrants, and just so that you all know, from a very white district in New York. You can roll tape on all of the things that I have said, and I do not think that I would make a robust candidate. I used to joke and say I will not run for office because I like running my mouth. But the fact is that I believe that I can teach and do good work in a number of ways that don't involve me having to rub shoulders with like the MTGs and the Lauren Boeberts of the world. But I appreciate all that do. And I actually train candidates to run, to speak, to debate. So I do participate in how people get to Capitol Hill. I just will not be going to Capitol Hill myself. Good question, though. Question, Brianna. Do you believe these climate disasters will worsen the homelessness crisis and the incarceration rate? If not, what are your thoughts? That's a really good question. I will say this. Yes, will it worsen the homelessness rate? I think at some point it has to, right? Because one, people are not like housing is already unaffordable. And I'm not just talking about here in New York where I am. I'm talking about all over the country, all over the world, really. There is a housing crisis. And so, how is that housing crisis exasperated by the fact that buildings burn, wind damage, flooding, all of those things? So yes, I do believe that you're right. And incarceration rates, I don't necessarily see the connection there. But that is something to ponder. Thank you for that question. Question, Mama Corolla. Can blue state governors come together to figure out how not to give any aid to red states? We're always carrying red states. This is something that goes around a lot that I think is important, right? Which is that basically blue states are where all of the money is made, and we essentially like provide welfare to the red states. And I think that if you are going to be weaponizing funding, uh, in natural disasters moving forward, then blue states get to keep their money. I think that there is something called the National Governors Association, but obviously that includes all governors. But then there's the Democratic Governors Association. So, one would hope that these conversations are happening at these meetings about what to do moving forward and how to be of support to one another, but I do not know. Question, Kathy, would it do any good to ask our senators / representatives to not attend the inauguration? Look, you can do it. You can call them and tell them that you would support them sitting this out and say why. But I would, I guess, ask you, what would your hope be that the response would be? What do you see the point being? Like for me, Michelle Obama deciding not to attend, that is a huge figure, right? That everybody in the country, in the world, knows who Michelle Obama is, knows how she's been treated, knows what was said about her. So her deciding to do that is an act of political defiance that I think resonates. Would I love to see like a domino effect of that? Absolutely. But I think that these people are more concerned with the, presumption of normalcy and the presentation of normalcy than they are with actually doing the right thing. Do you have a preference, Omar? Do you have a preference in the current DNC chair race? No, I do not. Do you have a preference? people who I would like to run the DNC are not in the running, like a Stacey Abrams. So I don't have a preference. I would just hope that whoever takes on the role will have a 50-state strategy. We'll stop just going where we have won and consider building pipelines and ground games in places that are winnable. And we can't just shrug our shoulders, because had we done that, Georgia would not have been in the place, which is why I offer up the name of Stacey Abrams, is that there is work that needs to go into building institutions on the ground, building grassroots operations, going door to door. And I would like to see somebody come in that is actually interested in doing that. Question, Norma. Other than Mary Trump media colleagues, who else do you follow slash subscribe to in the podcast and video world? Good question. I recently, there are a couple of people. One, I used to have Woke AF Daily, and Woke AF used to be on Sirius XM Progress. That was where it started out. Dean Obadala, great voice, great show over on Sirius Progress. There is what is his name? Greg Sargent over at the New Republic, whose podcast I really like. Gaslit Nation is a podcast that I like. My friend Jared Yates Sexton, who is at Muckrake Podcast, his podcast I love. I also go on there. Those are the ones off the top of my head. I think that we said yesterday on Democracy-ish that Jen Rubin is going to have a new Substack, formerly of the Washington Post. You should follow Elie Mystal, his writing over at The Nation, to follow the judiciary. Dahlia Lithwick, her writing. I know that she's a Trump nerd avenger. Sisters in Law, another really good podcast around the law. So those are a couple. Question, why not come to Canada? Abe, I have not said that I won't come to Canada. I'm just not coming there right now. I would like, to fight until I can't in the best way that I can. But, options we keep open. Question, Susan, our moderator. Do you think these Senate confirmations are just performative, an exercise in futility? Republicans have a 3-seat majority. CNN reporting Hegseth vote not happening until, I think you mean January 20th evening. They are, to an extent, all of it is performative, but I think that you have to be able to use these opportunities, if you are Democrats, even though they have the majority, to show the American people who these people are. That's why you coordinate how you're going to ask these questions. What part of this person's character, their resume, do you want questioned? So that everyone has a role to play on this committee is how I would attack it. And so, yes, are things performative, but can you use performances, to show people things? Absolutely. If you have the forethought to do so. And that's where Democrats are currently failing. Let's see. Rashad, question, realistically, do you still think there's a possibility that Trump will not leave after... Rashad, let me just stop you right there. Yes. Do I think that there's a possibility that Donald Trump doesn't leave after 4 years? Yes. Do I believe that this is the building of an autocracy and a dictatorship? Yes. Do I think that America is a backsliding democracy and that we are going to lose it in the next 4 years? Yes. It will be telling to see how long we have a free press. that will dictate how long it is that I think that we have a democracy. And you are already seeing, right? What did ABC do? Pay Donald Trump $15 million, right? What has CNN done? What have these other outlets done? Washington Post, oh, we're not going to endorse. LA Times, we're not going to endorse. So Donald Trump said that he's going on this redemption tour. We will see how long people like me are able to do this job, which is to critique, to analyze, to offer thoughts on our government. That is what separates America from Iran and North Korea and Turkey, right? Like that's what separates us. So once that's gone, then can we call ourselves a democracy? I don't think so. So, do I think that he's sticking around longer than 4 years if he's still alive? Yeah, I do. Last question. Let's look. So funny. Last question, Philip. If we had an extra parliamentary opposition, would you run to be our president? It's like you want harm to come to me. I'm just kidding. I know you don't. I'm not running for office, folks. Like, I see no benefit in me running for office. I'm an educator. I see myself as a teacher. Right? I used to be a classroom teacher for many years. My master's is in education. I went to Capitol Hill to do education policy. So I am using my skills in a different way to try and educate the public. But no, I'm not running for anybody's office. Like, unless hell freezes over, which is possible with climate change, probably not going to happen. Folks, thank you so much for joining today's Town Hall Tuesday. I appreciate it. And let me ask you this, and you can put it in the comments after the show as well. It was suggested to me that I should think about doing an entire show, maybe once a month, that is all questions, that is all town hall. And I'm interested to know if you all would like something like that. So you can let me know in the live chat. You can let me know in the comment section after this is posted. Would you be interested in a full town hall, a 30-minute full town hall, instead of just 15 or so minutes at the end, like once a month? And if you all have other suggestions of things that you would like to see on this channel, please do let me know. Post it in the comment section at me so that it comes to my attention. But I'm taking in all of the things, all of the suggestions that you guys have. I take them to heart. I'm trying to build something that you all will love, will support, want to share. So the more suggestions you have, the better. But thank you all so very much. Today was fun. I had a good time. So as always, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these incredibly dangerous times, dear friends, stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Be well and take care of yourselves and your mental health, okay? See you tomorrow.